Check the description for the following discount codes. Throughout the course of my reviews, particularly so with regards to cockpits or wheel stands, there's always quite a few people in the comments that say, Carl, I bought this cheap so-and-so off of Amazon or eBay, and it's actually really good and about half the price of whatever it is I was reviewing, GT Amiga, Next Level Racing, Sim Labs, whatever it might be. You should check it out. And I haven't done, really, up until this point. I've thought about it, but I'm like, do I really want to buy something in that's probably just going to be awful, you know, and a waste of time? Most people know that if you buy something cheap from Amazon or eBay, it's going to be bad. You know, it's cheap for a reason. Anyway, what I've got here today is basically one of those cockpits. It's rebranded as Racing GT or GT Racing or Rack Jeting, depending how you want to read it. And I know it's rebranded not only because you can buy something very similar elsewhere on the internet, but the instructions, which I may as well show you, actually have the brand Dewangus at the top. So, in fact, I may as well have a quick peek at my Dewangus. I'm sure everyone loves a good Wangus. So it's just illustrations really, no text to speak of. I'll tell a lie, there's a little bit of text there. What does that say? Choose the right steering wheel mounting holes. Thanks very much, Dewangus. So this is what we've got. And when I say cheap, it is £265. Now you might think, oh, that's not that cheap, Carl. But what you're getting is actually quite a lot for that 265. If we look at this picture here, which this is the website's brilliant. Look, they've blown up the picture but left another one in the background, so that's just a bit messy, isn't it? Anyway, and they're still moving them in the background. Brilliant. So what you get is you get your seat, your cockpit, your pedal tray, your wheel deck, and a monitor mount. So it is a complete setup. You could buy this, bolt your entry-level wheelbase, you know, your Logitech, your Thrustmaster, maybe you've got an entry-level DD from Camus or maybe even Moser Fanatic if you've gone that far. You can bolt that all to this, you can put a monitor on there, and you can just race. So for 265, that isn't actually that bad. Well, in fact, it's good if it's good. Because if we compare, it reminded me a little bit in construction of the Playseat Evolution, which I have here. This is 260 quid. Is that image not going to blow up any bigger? No, oh, that's strange. What's that symbol for? No, weird. I'm sure that used to be a magnifying glass. How strange. Anyway, very similar to this. I reviewed one of these and the wheel deck was horribly wobbly because it's on this upright section here that then angles off and can be extended further. We have a similar design here, but it is much shorter, which inherently means there will be less flex, and it is reinforced slightly higher up, and even the piece at the bottom here is wider. So that's definitely going to flex less than what the Playseat Evo did. The wheel deck that bolts into the top is this. It's on, 2mm steel, I would say, so your typical entry-level wheel plate, nothing to get excited about there. It's got a quick release to adjust the angle. What's annoying about this is it's just a smooth arc, meaning you would be able to force past that quick release if you applied too much force. But it's cheap. We have to remember, it's not a high-end cockpit, it's not £1,000, it's 265 quid with a seat and a monitor stand. Oh, and a mat, as you can see on the floor there. So we can't be too hard on this because it doesn't cost much money. So, and what's interesting about that smooth arc that I just pointed out there is that on their pedal tray, and this you might argue is where it's actually a bit more important, they've actually got pre-drilled holes for the adjustment, so you can't push past it. And that kind of makes sense because when you're braking hard, your legs are a lot stronger than what you're going to be, you're pushing down hard on that pedal. When you're steering on that wheel deck, it's more sideways than it is forwards and backwards. You're unlikely to push past it unless you're using some 30 Nm direct drive wheelbase, which you shouldn't be on a cheap ass cockpit. What we are going to have here is, of course, some flex, both in this tray itself and perhaps at the bottom here, but we'll see. It has got reinforcements sort of 2/3 of the way up, so this end bit would flex worse than anywhere else, but there's not going to be much force applied to the end there. Your pedals are going to go, you know, long ways, and so most of the force will be through the middle. You know, this is only, I would say this is 1.5mm steel. It's not quite as thick as what the wheel deck, what the wheel deck was. This is the pedal tray. Hopefully I said that correct earlier. So, and again, it's going to slot on the bottom legs like so. So it's not going to be great. Ooh, apologies. That's the magnet that holds my wireless mic under my shirt, just confirming that it's steel. Put that back on, shall we? Sorry about that. So, yeah, we can't expect mega quality because it's cheap, but that's why we're looking at it, because it is cheap. If we were to compare to, say, the cheapest cockpit offering from GT Amiga, which is their art cockpit, with a seat, £370. So it's a whole £100 cheaper than what the cheapest possible cockpit you can get from GT Amiga is. And this, of course, doesn't come with an integrated monitor mount. I dare say there's going to be less flex in the wheel deck and probably the pedal tray also. But again, it's 33% cheaper. It's 265 notes. So I don't think we can be too hard on it. The question really is whether it's usable. Is it so cheap that it's just like, you can't use that, it ruins the experience, or is it actually usable? Now, other things that point to the sort of poor quality and quality control of this is the red sort of striping that's painted on the side here. I don't know if it will show up in camera, but there's actually like red sort of where there shouldn't be, like someone's brushed. And in fact, it almost looks like it's been brushed on. The finish is so uneven in its sort of application. But again, it's cheap. What do we expect? So yeah, this is what I'm going to put together over the next however long it's going to take, maybe an hour and a half, hard to say. I'll follow these Dwangus instructions and make sure my Dwangus is correctly assembled. And then we will bolt probably CSLDD and Fanatic pedals to it. I mean, I'll try at maximum torque, 8 Newton meters, and then I'll dial it back to a more realistic sort of 3 or 4, which is what you would expect to get from a Logitech or Thrustmaster type offering, or even one of the early belt-driven Fanatic wheelbases. But you know, this might be a budget-friendly, do-it-all cockpit for someone that, you know, that's what you can afford. And it would be nice if it is. The seat actually doesn't look too bad. Yeah, it would be nice if it is half decent, well, usable, because not everyone can afford expensive stuff. So that's why I thought I'd check it out, you know. Like, how cheap can you go before you can't use it? Anyway, enough waffle. Let's get it put together and test it out. I think this took maybe an hour to put together. The instructions, they're not the clearest, and it definitely could have been assembled faster if I didn't have to quite regularly undo things, add something else in and do them back up. There's a few things in the manual, they're just pictures, and you're looking at the parts, you're like, does it go on this side or does it go on this side of whatever part you're bolting it to? But you soon realise, because when you do it the wrong way, the next bit doesn't fit, and you go, oh, right, that needs to come undone and needs to go on the other side. So yeah, the instructions are a little bit pony, but again, it's a cheap cockpit. But saying that, I actually quite like it. I've not used it yet, obviously. I've sat in it though. In fact, I'll sit in it now just to show you what the driving position kind of looks like. It's most definitely more of a formula driving position than a GT position, which is ironic as the company is called Racing GT or GT Racing. But yeah, this is very much a formula position. Now, the seat seems reasonably comfortable. It's slightly firmer kind of across the middle, just above my lower back, than it is above it and below it. I'm not sure why that is. You could rest your head if you wanted to, and my eye sort of line is now at the middle of where whatever screen you would fit to there would be. We've got a shift amount on the left here. I'll do a close-up walk around, in fact, and show you all the bits and bobs. But so far, for the money, I'm actually quite surprised. It may even be that it gets a recommendation after doing some actual testing to see just how wobbly everything is. Ignore that, it's not actually cinched down, and you'll see why in a minute. But as a package, so far so good. Interesting. Right, let's have a little close-up look around. First things first, as I say, I think it looks quite nice. And the mat actually kind of just, tidies the whole thing up a little bit. We'll start at the top. These are your uprights for your monitor mount. You can see they're slotted, so they would fit almost any TV or monitor. They are held on this cylindrical section by quick release clamps, and you can do them up as tight as is necessary. I wouldn't put anything stupid heavy on here, but you're probably not going to if this is the sort of thing you're looking to buy. We've then got some vertical adjustment, thumb screws here. These sections can slide up or down, probably 4 inches or so before they would come out the top. Then the pedal, move that out of the way. The pedal tray does the same there, and there's thumb screws underneath to lock that in place. And you've already seen earlier on in the video there's the angle adjustment that can be done with an Allen key that comes with it. In fact, the included tools work just fine. But you've got a huge amount of adjustment from here all the way to there, depending on your leg length. Of course, this has to move accordingly, which would make sense. You're unlikely to have really, really long legs and like stupid short arms. Although you could do you could do that configuration. What you couldn't do is have really long arms and short legs, because it would be stuck like that. Anyway, there's your adjustment for both of those. Thumb screws again here. This does slide, in and out to give you your height adjustment. And you saw earlier there's the angle adjustment underneath on the smooth quick release as well. So we've actually got a reasonable amount of adjustment here. The seat has no adjustment at all. That is the angle you're sat at, whether you like it or not. That's all there is to it. But they don't really matter so much when you can adjust everything else, quite a large amount. Even the shifter mount has a lot of adjustment. It can go, I think I've actually done those up, yeah. It can go left and right on, this is unnecessarily long. That would be a long way away from where you're seated, but you can do. And bring it all the way out to there if you want. This can then go up and down, thumb screw there for that. And another thumb screw here, which actually allows you to move the whole assembly forward or backward there as well. And the actual mount here, there's 2 bolts that hold it in, one in opposing corners, and there's 2 more holes, so you can actually rotate that as necessary also, and it will fit on the other side of the cockpit for you overseas drivers. So there's actually quite a lot of adjustment in this. I am impressed. It doesn't seem too bad so far. So now let's get some equipment on it and actually have a little race and see just how much flex and wobble we get. But for 265 quid, we expect some, and it is acceptable. Well, what's the verdict then, Carl? The verdict is much as expected. There is a lot of flex in the wheel deck. Well, in fact, it's the whole rig that's wobbling, both on my carpet and, well, I guess just because it isn't a big beefy aluminium piece of profile, is it? So we've got left and right wobble, we've got up and down wobble, and the wheel, the pedal tray, obviously has copious flex as well. That's moving probably half an inch under braking. There, you'll probably see it. But this is to be expected because the whole thing is really cheap. The real question is it so bad that you can't enjoy a race? And I think the answer to that is no, actually, it's not. The pedal tray, I didn't notice really hardly at all. I guess because it flexes by the same amount every time and kind of feels like an elastomer that you find in brake pedals anyway. That didn't bother me as much as I thought it would. And let's put some footage up of me racing if I haven't already. And the wheel deck, it made the force feedback feel kind of a bit rubbery, I guess, because a bit like with the brake pedal, it flexing a bit like an elastomer. I guess the force feedback, I ran this flat out, by the way, full 8 Newton meters, which is more really than what a rig like this is designed to take. But yeah, it just kind of added like, almost like a damper to it really, which is what it's doing, isn't it? It's absorbing some of the forces rather than translating it through to your hands. But I was still able to race. And again, we've got to think about the price. It's a full cockpit with a shifter mount and a monitor stand and a mat. And I think it looks quite tidy, actually. If you're thinking sort of wife or girlfriend friendly, it's not that bad a looking cockpit. So for the money, it's £100 less than GT Amiga's entry-level offering, which doesn't come with a wheel stand. And it's the same money as a Playseat Evolution, which has much more flex in both the wheel deck, sort of upright assembly, and the pedal tray as well. So, and doesn't come with a monitor mount. Can't remember if it comes with a shifter mount. Not sure. But it's the same price as that. I would choose this all day over the Playseat Evolution. If that's the sort of money you've got to spend, don't buy a Playseat Evolution, buy one of these. There is a discounted link in the description. Another thing I don't like is the seating position. I'm not a fan of F1 seating positions. This is going to be down to you really. But for me, this sort of driving position is just, I don't know, I just don't like it. But also, you know, I mentioned there was that sort of firm section in the middle of the seat, just above my lower back. That is very prominent after using it for a while. I don't know whether there's a bar that runs across there. I think I can feel that's what it is. You might be able to put a cushion in, you know, by your lower back to bring you out a little bit, which might cure that. But I think for some people, that's going to get irritating. If you're a lighter person, smaller person, maybe you buy this for your son or daughter. They're probably not going to notice that because they're not going to weigh 95 kilos, which is what I weigh. So probably not so much of a big deal. Might be able to sort it with a cushion. But yeah, that's a bit irritating for me. The quick release mechanism that allows you to adjust the angle of the steering wheel is completely useless. You can't just, you know, I mentioned it's a smooth circular cutout, not pre-drilled ones like the pedal tray. Well, I can't actually demonstrate this because, I might be able to, let's see. No, I can't. What I had to do, there's a bolt that comes in from the right and a bolt that comes in from the left through the middle that it articulates on. I had to cinch both of those up as tight as I could to stop this moving up and down. Because if you leave them loose enough to articulate, which is their purpose, and just rely on this quick release clamp, then it's not strong enough. Just understeering with 8 Newton meters of force, it moves up and down. And I was like, oh, this is no good. And I looked at it and went, oh, I could probably tighten those up. And they were literally finger tight. So I did them up, but now of course it won't articulate. If I was to undo the quick release like this, oh, actually, tell a lie. Oh, maybe they've just been left loose then. Where is that rotating? Perhaps I assumed that they'd been left loose because I've done them up. So let's clamp this again. Oh, okay. No, I take that back. It does work. You just have to make sure, it isn't in the instructions, that you do up the 2 bolts that come through from either side. I assumed they were left loose because if you did them up, it wouldn't be able to do this. But having just demonstrated it, it definitely can. And yeah, it's now, I mean, can I force past it? Yeah, I can force past it. More up than I can down. I would still say this isn't something you're going to want to. It never came loose when I was driving, but I would still say this is something that doesn't really work and that you should tighten up. Because where's my Allen key? I wonder. Literally, that's how I did it. When I was like, oh, it moves. Yeah, see, they've undone. What's happened is me doing this and this has slackened them off, and I bet you this one's the same. Yeah, it is. So if you were to then do the, put it in the position you want, do that one up, come the other side. Yeah, that's well loose. Do that one up, and then do your quick release. Yeah, now it's solid and we're just wobbling on the upright section there. Again, and this is the sort of wobble you're going to expect for the price. But as you see in the driving footage, it's not as bad in use because you don't sit there doing that. And for the price, I would still choose this over a PlayStation Evolution. So, all those people who have commented over the years saying, Cole, I bought this on eBay, I bought this on Amazon, random, brands you've never heard of, and you see them rebranded by different brands like GT Racing in this case, and you just know they're going to be pony. The answer is yes. They're not great compared to GT Amiga, compared to Sim Labs, compared to Next Level Racing, but they're so much cheaper. Can you still race and have fun? Yeah, you can. And at least with this example, I'm sure there are others that would be far worse than this. I mean, the PlayStation Evolution was way worse than this. Then there was that Firebase A10 something or another that looked like a copy of the PlayStation Evolution. That was just beyond bad. You couldn't use it. It was that bad. So your quality and experience will vary from cheap manufacturer to cheap manufacturer. But this one, I would say, yeah, if that's your budget, maybe you've been looking at PlayStation Evo, I wouldn't get the PlayStation Evo, I would get this because at least you can throw a monitor on it and it is less flexible than what the PlayStation Evo is in my testing. Anyway, this seat still, yeah, that bar across the middle is not the one really, is it? Anyway, if you want one, if that's your budget, there will be a discounted link in the description. So it was interesting actually looking at this. I think it looks quite nice, and when I got it built up I thought actually that looks all right, and the flex and the wobble is kind of acceptable. The biggest deal for me is this seat, that bar across the middle, just really uncomfortable. Anyway, enough waffle. Thank you all for watching, and as always, take it easy.